Today, when viruses and our own immune system are under intense focus, let's try and understand what is a microbiome and how does it act as our outsourced partner in our own health. Hi, this is Nirmala Shekhar, and we are currently exploring our physical needs in a map of self-care. Let's look at how outsourcing works. An organization that wants certain functions to be done finds another organization that's very good at those functions and then outsources those functions to the organization, to the outsourced partner. And the main organization is responsible for the framework under which this outsourcing happens. But when something goes wrong in one of the areas of the outsourced function, very often we start finding who is guilty, and without looking into the details, we generally end blaming the entire outsourced organization for the problems and the entire outsourcing process for the problems as well. And something very similar is happening in our human body. Millions of years ago, when the earth first experienced life, it experienced life in the form of single celled organisms, microorganisms, bacteria, viruses. And these single celled organisms became so good at what they were doing at life, at adapting to various environments, not just surviving, but thriving in those different environments. And for millions of years, they continued living in volcanoes, living in the sea, living on land, living in mountains, in the deserts, until human beings came on the scene. And when human beings arrived on the scene, they found these microorganisms had become experts in certain areas. And so the relationship between human beings and microorganisms became one of outsourcing. We have so many different microorganisms in our body. In fact, experts give the number as 1 is to 10 or 1 is to 5. There's not a real similarity in the numbers that's coming out, but we all know that the microorganism cells are much, much more than human cells. And the microorganism DNA is much more than human DNA in this body. So let's meet our microbiome. We have different microbiomes, and each microbiome is engineered for specific functions, and the diversity, the kind of organisms in that microbiome is quite distinct, depending on the function that these organisms are going to be doing in that area. Firstly, we have the microbiome, which is the biggest, which is our scalp and our skin, including our nails. Each of these areas have specific microbiomes. Then we have a specialized kind of microbiome within the eye that supports the eye in its functions, and then within the ear as well. We also have the microbiome in the nose, and that leading up into the respiratory tract. In fact, the biggest, the one that we know most of is the gut microbiome, which starts in the mouth. Again, a different kind of environment, different species, different organisms. And then we have the entire digestive tract, again, different microbiomes in different inches and different areas of the digestive tract, and then ending with the anal area. Lastly, we have the microbiome in the reproductive organs and the genitals. And again, they are distinct from other microbiomes as well. So this, in a very short nutshell, is the different microbiomes that we have. And each one of them are distinct with thousands and millions of life happening all around us, and we are not even aware that these microbiomes and microbe are functioning for our health and for our welfare. And it's a partnership. So let's look at how this partnership functions. Firstly, we have the friend circle in the microbiome, again, different for different areas. These friends help us and we help them. And then we have the neutral organisms. They exist, share the same space as us. They do not help us, they do not harm us. We do not help them, and we do not harm them either. And then we have the enemies, the pathogens. They are here to take resources from us, and their existence within our field is not allowing us to grow and develop as well as we could if they did not exist. So, the entire idea of understanding this microbiome and the purpose of this video is to know that uh, we are not just the pathogens in the microbiome, that the microbiome is much more than the pathogens. And by intensely focusing on the viruses, we are not doing a justice to the microbiome. We are just focusing on one or two species of pathogens and not realizing that it is the friends that we need to understand. That the friends in the microbiome, which is if you take a big circle and the entire circle is a microbiome, then the pathogens are just a small dot. And by focusing on just the small dot, we are ignoring the entire circle. So, what can we do to ensure that these friends survive, these friends thrive? One thing for us to understand is that these friends, the friendly microbes, actually function. One of their function is to ensure that the microbiome functions well and that the microbiome is protected from pathogens. And if pathogens do come in, then these friendly microbes organize themselves in such a way that they can fight off the pathogens or provide an environment or a signal to us so that we can start working to push away the pathogens. But when we think our microbiome is just the pathogens and we want to sort of kill the pathogens by carpet bombing the entire microbiome, then we are doing ourselves a huge disservice. Imagine that there is a village, and in that village, there is one house that has got known criminals. Would we want to then drop a bomb and wipe out the entire village? Or would we want to rope in some of the friendly aspects within that village and take their help to remove the criminals from that one house in the village? When we take indiscriminately antibiotics, or when we use antibacterial solutions on the skin indiscriminately, we are killing the entire microbiome, the friends as well. And these friends, when they don't exist, they can't protect us from the foes. So just keep that in mind as we look at the microbiome. On our skin, we have a protective microbiome that actually protects us from many infections. Our skin is exposed, it's the first line of exposure to many environments. So, when we use antibacterial soaps, antibacterial sanitizers indiscriminately, overly, then we are killing off the microbiomes. And that then causes a problem in future infections. We are leaving ourselves open for more attacks in the future. A safer alternative would be to just use soaps, not antibacterial soaps, but just ordinary soaps that are good enough to clean and remove the pathogens. Secondly, our gut microbiome, and that's one of the things that's been researched a lot. And the connection between the gut microbiome and many different aspects of our health is very well understood, researched, and documented. Firstly, our gut microbiome impacts our feelings and the way we feel, how well we feel, our anxiety. It also impacts our ability to focus and think and work. So it affects the brain directly as well. Our gut microbiome is also something that is impacted, that impacts situations like autoimmunity, even major diseases, and many other aspects of our digestive health are directly linked to the health and diversity of our gut microbiome. So when we take antibiotics, a lot of antibiotics, we are removing many friendly aspects of the microbiome. So my suggestion here at this stage would be to choose when it is necessary. Antibiotics are life-saving ones, but choose them with discrimination, and where we can manage without it or use other milder forms or natural forms of antibiotics, then that may support the gut microbiome. If at all we do need to take antibiotics, then after the course is finished, taking active steps to replenish the gut flora, the gut fauna, the gut microbiome is a very important part. So, taking probiotics, taking prebiotics, greens, and fiber that actually provide food for the microbiome is very important as well. So, taking active steps to do all of this would ensure that we are supporting our health. Lastly, I wanted to highlight another area of the microbiome. Traditionally, when the child is in the womb, it does not have a microbiome. When the child is born through the vagina, the microbiome of the vagina, the mother's vagina, is the one that kickstarts the child's microbiome. And then the first few days of the breast milk and subsequent days starts providing the nutrients and even the information blueprint necessary for the child to start building its microbiome. And when the child, over a period of time, goes and plays around, put things in the mouth, feels it with the skin, it is actively building its microbiome, and that is necessary. So, many scientists and experts in the field have even suggested, even when we do have a cesarean birth, to then expose the child to the microbiome of the mother's vagina through the doctor or through other means as well, to just take that microbiome and then swap it on the skin, especially on the face of the child. So that way we are not depriving the child of the start that we give to its own microbiome. So these are some of the things that I wanted to highlight. I also want to highlight that I'm not an expert, I'm not a scientist or a doctor. I have been studying this field of information for the last few years through my own research and also through Body Talk courses, especially those by Dr. Laura Stuvey. And a lot of the information that I am sharing, I try to check and double check to make sure that at least many different credible sources all are saying the same thing before I share it here. I would like your comment on this video as well. Please let me know what your takeaways are, what your insights are, and if you can take this opportunity to focus on the microbiome and look on it not as an enemy, but as a friend, and then to work towards maintaining that friendship, that partner, being making it a partner in our health, then we are going to be improving our health in leaps and bounds. That's all I have. Thank you for joining me. This is Nirmala Shekhar signing off. Bye bye. Namaste. do subscribe and hit the bell button for more weekly content on self-care. And if you want even more actionable content on self-care, do join me in the Facebook group for weekly lives, discussions, and more tips.